Silverdraft. As rebellious innovators, we make the impossible possible. The best way to explain Silverdraft and our value is to share some of the projects we've enabled. Here is one with Madonna performing live at the Billboard Awards with 4 different virtual Madonnas. The Weather Channel puts broadcasters out in the storm. Race cars tour across NFL field, keeping people safe with life-saving examples. This year's Super Bowl, where graphics materialized on the field and around the stadium. The Ford Ranger before it was even built. Madonna dancing with virtual versions of herself. Nicki Minaj coming to life as a robot. Michael Jackson at the Grammys dancing on stage with real dancers and props years after he passed away. The floor of the halftime show as an integral part of the performance. Crash tests that saved millions of dollars and years of development while improving safety. The new IndyCar revealed virtually. The lines between the real and the virtual, human and AI, have been blurred, delivering amazing results. The demands and opportunities to leverage these technologies is only growing. What you may not know is each of these are the first of its kind, and it's really, really hard. To pull each of those off successfully, our customers had to do all of those tasks listed here. It is all cutting edge, and those technologies don't easily integrate and work together out of the box. The explosion of data, the demand for high resolution content in 2D, 3D, virtual reality, and augmented reality has completely outstripped the capabilities of computers that drove those solutions in the past. Before, companies had a choice of whether to solve those challenges or simply live with the delays, limitations, and frustration. However, today, the workflow for what is now the expected way of seeing content and developing almost everything is so complex and challenging that innovators are racing ahead and everyone else is trying to play catch up. Silverdraft is the engine, the glue that powers all of these functions and connects everything in a seamless turnkey workflow, enabling our customers to win awards, increase productivity, save time and money, and freeing them to make the best new products in their respective markets. Many of those innovators we've enabled, like Disney, Toyota, and Corning. Our customers span many industries, from gaming to automotive, from movie studios to engineering companies. They all face major challenges that our visualization and artificial intelligence servers and workstations solve. Their competitors are catching on to the fact that they've fallen behind and that they are now turning to us for great solutions that have become necessary to their workflow and the workflow for the entire industry they work in. One of the greatest values Silverdraft offers is making the complex simple. We deliver a turnkey end-to-end solution that performs exceptionally and delivers value. We provide R&D services. We manufacture incredible computers to optimize performance at each step of the workflow. We provide software to enhance digital design and remote collaboration around visual content. And we deliver this content out flawlessly to displays that range from VR headsets to LED walls to VR rooms to massive domes. We have turned our custom development projects into solutions of well-defined products and services. You should find it interesting that very similar computer designs for visualization based on graphics processing units, or GPUs, are also optimized for artificial intelligence and machine learning applications, taking vast amounts of data from many different sources and ultimately delivering decisions, recommendations, or taking action. This allows us to rebrand some of our existing solutions for this rapidly growing market. Over the past 4 years, we've seen common elements of our designs that we could repeat in certain solutions. Not everything had to be custom designed. Taking advantage of some efficiencies and the huge wave of growth in the market, we've been able to grow revenue last year by nearly 50% to about 1.5 million, and we project triple-digit growth for this year and the next 2 to 3 years. This is the innovative and the entrepreneurial team that has been driving the strategy and delivering those results. Eric Smith has continued to innovate and invent IP that keeps us in the lead, as well as expanding our product line. Janine has established strong relationships and the foundation to support our go-to-market strategy. Hardy is an established thought leader, and David continues to drive the sales strategy and expand our pipeline of opportunities. They're all seasoned professionals with the ability to lead our team in productizing our innovation and driving sales and growth going forward. I also have an incredible advisory board. The other important part of the equation that we excel at is in partnering with industry leaders on the component side, like NVIDIA, Intel, and Micron. And then on the solution side, like with Autodesk and McDyne, and other peripheral and display providers like Barco, Samsung, and HTC. These relationships keep us on the bleeding edge of innovation and ahead of the competition. These are not niche markets. Video is already a huge market, with enterprise VR, AR, and AI markets projected to grow over the next 4 to 5 years. The computer segment that we are targeting is about $30+ billion of the massive computer market. This is by far the fastest growing segment, with the computer market projected to accelerate in growth to more than 26% year over year this year. There is a lot of room for us to grow and gain market share in this rapidly evolving market. We do face competition on the hardware side from some big companies like HP and Dell, but we've made a name for ourselves providing solutions that they simply can't. There are some smaller companies like Box moving into our target market, but they lack the consulting and end-to-end solutions and customization and IP that drive our superior performance. And no one can match our quality, durability, and support. Growing revenue about 50% last year helped prove our strategy, including the ability to get paid for services and support. The biggest sign of traction is the growth of the pipeline from about 10 million to about 45 million last year, and this has helped with our average deal size increasing to over 300,000. We're projecting triple-digit growth this year and for at least the next 2 years, getting us to cash flow positive, decreasing our cost of goods sold, and establishing a strong reoccurring revenue base. This will allow us to raise more money to continue aggressively growing. It will also validate us in the eyes of our competitors or potential acquirers. Our go-to-market strategy is pretty straightforward. We've shifted from a one-off problem and custom hardware manufacturer to focus on growing sales, margins, and expansion into new markets. We're driving sales through the proven channel partners of Autodesk, Barco, and Samsung. We've identified more than 100 and expect to sign up 5 this year. We continue to focus on our core markets of media and entertainment and automotive, expanding those relationships. Today, this makes up more than 85% of our sales and pipeline. Additional growth is coming from architecture, engineering, and construction, called the AEC market. Today, this is only 4% of our pipeline, but we expect it will eventually be larger than media, entertainment, and automotive combined. We have already been approached by several of these companies as potential acquisition for them. Because of our innovation in hardware, software, and services, there are several different exit opportunities. We're looking for an investment of 1.5 million to scale up sales. There is a small amount allocated to protecting our intellectual property, but this capital raise is to drive the sales of existing products and services, not developing new products or services. I trust you can see that Silverdraft represents true innovation and real opportunity, regardless of industry. Our management team is proven and capable of scaling to support our go-to-market strategy and plans for growth. We have real traction and are ready for triple-digit growth over the next several years. Supercomputing, immersive reality, and artificial intelligence technologies represent huge and rapidly growing market for us. Much like Alienware came out of nowhere in the gaming market and was acquired by Dell and continued on to massive growth, we too have a similar opportunity on the enterprise side of the equation, creating several exciting exit opportunities for us and our investors. Silverdraft would be a great addition to your investment portfolio. I would love for you to join us on this incredible journey. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Amy. Oh, and don't forget to read the disclaimer. Thank you. So what we'd like to do now is take questions. And if you have questions, we're asking everyone to put them in the chat. So we also want to give any investors, accredited investors who are on this Zoom meeting preference. So if you've got a question and you're a accredited investor, please put that in there so we can read it first. So first question I have for you, Amy, is it sounds like you're a service. So are you a service or are you a product? Like, can you just break that down a little bit more for us so we understand?
Absolutely. We're a solutions company. So what that means is to solve these very challenging technical problems, I look at them as opportunities. We actually are a service, and we build and design the actual compute to run and enable that full solution. So right now, I would say compute is about 75% of our sell, but we are shifting over to greater solutions and services side. We even do some of the coding and scripting on top of the applications. So take, for example, Honda has specific tool sets that we design for them to design in a virtual environment so they can slice the car in half, look at certain components. We create those plugins that go on top of the Autodesk applications. And so now we're productizing all of that to make it easier and turnkey for our clients.
Got it. So I've got a question here about your financials. No surprise there. Can you, would you mind going back to the, I think it's your sales slide, like your sales pipeline. We've got some of that listed. One of the questions is you've got, I think,
financial projections.
Yeah. So it looks like you've got net revenue listed. Is that net or is that gross? Because you've got net and then EBITDA. So just the questions on, can you walk us through your revenue and how you have built this pipeline?
Absolutely. So that's net after the discounts. Really, the pipeline comes from, and we look at our pipeline based on, have we quoted them, or have we already started to architect certain solutions for them? One of the great things about our pipeline is we're really able to and only put on there clients that we're already engaged with, not clients we're going after. So when we look at our pipeline, it is we've quoted them, we have started deeper dive into their full pipeline. So we'll actually build that backbone of technology in their pipeline so we know, okay, 6 months from now, Nissan's going to need to add to their rendering backbone, or they're adding this many new artists. And we build that out with them, and we're basically an extension of their R&D team.
Okay. Just a little bit more, thank you for that. A little more clarity on the net revenue. So is that gross profit, or is that revenue after all of your operations and expenses have been accounted for?
It's gross revenue less discounts.
Okay, great. So we're going to call that like gross profit. Okay, so that clarifies that question. Sure. Another one here is what are your margins on your product?
So our margins range, but I would say our average margins are about 30%, 30 to 35%. As we shift to more of the the services and solutions, those margins will increase and go up. But right now, right now we're anywhere from 30, but more in the range of 40 to 44%, especially with our solution side.
Got it. And what's the timeline from your quote for services to actual payment? What is that?
So that is really dependent on the client. So we look at, if it is a client that we do not know, they have to pay upfront. If it is a Disney, we get it, we build it, we ship it, they pay, they have certain terms. Most of them are about 30 days is about the longest. Someone like GE, unfortunately, can be up to 90, but usually we build it, we ship it, we get paid, and it takes deliveries about 2 weeks. So it can be fairly quick. If it's a big, massive supercomputer that is, say, 250,000 and above, we're usually able to get a significant deposit down prior to building. And then we get, remainders of that as the build continues, and then the final ship.
Great. So you mentioned
services are upfront.
Okay. So you mentioned having some really big clients. So which is amazing, but it can also be a curse, right? So how do you hedge against losing somebody like Disney or GE in your business model?
So our channel helps us a great deal with that. Being able to have them be first line of support for our clients, that helps a great deal. But it's when you're an integral part of the backbone that they're building, you are making sure that your technology matches what they're needing. So right now, if we look at example, the studio's coming back online, we're working on virtual production and how to enable them to get active and back into production. And so that helps us a great deal, because there's a relationship there that is an R&D development building relationship. And then, as we're expanding into the services and solutions side, that really enables us what our product line needs to be. And so, they're the ones testing and pushing our products. Like, I'll give an example of Rivian, a new automotive company. We just introduced a laptop, but Rivian's been a customer with us on the laptop side for, it's been about 8 months, working to break that product for us so that we could make tweaks. And so we become a part of their company, they become a part of our company, and it's working out extremely well.
Great. So I just have time for one more question,
Sure.
and it's around your exit. So there's a question in here on the exit timeline, but my question really, you can touch on exit timeline, but can you talk about what exits have existed in this space? So how is a solution company acquired? How are they acquired? How's that priced in a solutions company? We're pretty, can easily pull data on product companies or SaaS companies. So can you just walk us through how a company like yours exits, and what are some examples that have happened in that space already?
Well, on the solutions side, it's really interesting, because we're in this shift of where, take for example, when computers started, companies at first, that was, an extra thing that they brought into their business, and then it became a mandatory thing. We're in that paradigm right now in this space. And for us, the advantage that we have is we understand that workflow and understand the solution of that workflow. So even though HP and Dell and Box and Lenovo aren't necessary solutions companies, the understanding of that solution and knowledge we have on that workflow and backbone of the tech for all of these specific companies is extremely valuable. And so, there are solutions companies like, Deloitte and McDine, and who McDine's actually a reseller for us. So we become an advantage for those companies. But, you know, I would say it's 5 to 6x with regards to revenue, 3x revenue, or even 6 to 10x revenue, depending on which vertical of compute solutions and software.
Great, thanks for that. And I want to continue more Q&A with Amy. Should you have more questions, chat her directly. So we're going to move on to the next pitch, but you can keep having back and forth with Amy. She is Amy Guile on the participants list. So in your chat box, you can pick her and send a direct message there. So I'm going to ask Amy to unshare her screen. Thank you. And I'm going to ask Dan Smith to turn your mic on and share your screen. And let's hear a pitch from Recipe 33. Go ahead, Dan.
Let's see, we're still good morning. So I'm Dan Smith, founder of Recipe 33. This all started 5 years ago when I went back to school, was working on my MBA and working full-time. A lot of late night study groups. Someone in my group would always bring snacks. I was usually the guy that would bring some type of almond product. So like a Blue Diamond wasabi or smokehouse. And you're trying to crank out a 20-page paper and you've got the dreaded residue all over your hands. You kind of flip over the package, you read all the ingredients and you're going, why? This was kind of the founding of Recipe 33. I do a lot of barbecuing, and you marinate a steak, you brine a turkey. So why couldn't you do this with almonds? And that was kind of the start of all this. So the opportunity, the United States is a huge snacking market and it's a growing category. If you look at the consumers in the US, they're with Food Network, and you look at all the different culinary trends that are going on out there. If I asked you how many people knew sriracha sauce 10 years ago, people are trying more things and more ethnic foods. And more and more consumers today are flipping over the package and looking at the back of the package, whether it's dietary needs or requirements, they want to see what they're putting into their body. The problem, it's all the junk that they're adding to snacks to try and make it taste like something else. There's a lot of oils that are used in roasting different nuts, and in the dreaded Cheeto fingers. So we came up with Recipe 33, and really it was using our proprietary process to infuse real ingredients inside the nut. So we're really focused on two consumers. So we're focused on a foodie, so somebody that really cares about different flavors and combinations, unique flavors. And then people, again, health conscious individual that they want simplified ingredients. They don't want to read, 20 items on the back of their package. So we came up with black truffle, and a lot of these flavors came from direct feedback from really doing a lot of surveys, and then now it's 2 years worth of direct conversations with our consumers. But we use real winter Italian black truffle and sea salt, 3 ingredients. We use fresh serrano peppers, hickory smoked sea salt, 3 ingredients. Cinnamon vanilla, we're using whole cinnamon sticks, real vanilla bean. It is the only one we add a touch of sugar to. It's the only one that's not a savory item for us. It does well. It's our 4th selling item, but it's unique. It's a very different demographic than what we pull with our others. It tends to skew older, that doesn't care for a lot of the flavor variety, or younger consumers. And then the lemon rosemary, fresh lemon, fresh rosemary. So the team, I've got 25 years of experience, from M&M Mars to Ghirardelli chocolate to the last 10 years I've been involved in my family business, co-packing for Costco and Sam's Club in the nut space. I had the opportunity to go back and work on my MBA. Really what it provided, it sharpened my toolkit, but it helped me find my partners, and they're investors with me, but they take very specific roles off of my desk. So I can sleep well at night because I've got Jen that's awesome at finance, Giuliano that's an incredible marketer, and Mutu that's amazing with tech. It takes all the Amazon and my website off of my mind, so I can really focus on building the business, selling the product, and refining our manufacturing process. So this all started as we joked, and we called it, for the first year, we called it continued education. It was really, could we validate this business model in Seattle with 50 stores. The buyers were all telling us if we could sell 2 units per store per week, you justify your space on the shelf. So after we completed our first year, we were in 57 stores and we were actually turning 6 units per store per week. So it's like, okay, maybe we have something here. It was beyond that academic business plan competition thing that we did in our past life. So we were really looking at, okay, what's the size of the market here? $1.5 billion market for almonds. Almonds is a snack. So no, not as an ingredient or anything else. It is basically like a straight almond or an almond mixed into like a mix of nuts. And then we look at 2/3 of the households actually buy almonds. And then the perception of nuts are 86% of consumers perceive nuts as a healthy snacking item. So we launched our products with two different form factors. So we've got our 4-ounce snack pack or snacking size that basically this is what you would find in a traditional grocery store or online. And then this fall we launched our 1 ounce. So it's a trial on the go pack. So this was really to get it into more people's hands. For me, I send out a lot of this to influencers to get them to try it. When we built this, it was all about doing a good, better, best strategy. When you look at nuts, and I'll cover this more on the competitive side, nuts are very commoditized. So we were really trying to go with a premium price point. So if you look at like in the ice cream segment, you look at your traditional Breyers and Dryers, Ben & Jerry, and then Haagen-Dazs. And now it's Halo Top and a lot of these other brands that are super premium. So we're really going after that with our pricing strategy because we were bringing innovation to the category. We have very strong margins, honestly, and there's a bunch of upside there because we're not even leveraging scale at this point. We've just been refining our process and making sure we get our initial distribution. So competition, this, again, I'm repeating this, but it's a very commoditized category. I mean, and very little innovation. If you see a new flavor or a line extension, that's innovation in this space. We're really looking at like what Sahali did 20 years ago. They were founded here in Seattle. I've met with the founders multiple times. They've given me a lot of really good feedback, but they were kind of changing the model back then. They had a great exit 5 years ago to Smucker's, but they've provided a lot of really good information, but we're not trying to trade punches with the private labels, the Planters, the Blue Diamonds of the world. We're really focused on this upscale, trading the consumer up for the buyers and this at the retail level. They love this part. We're the first one to bring almonds to the market with an innovation product. I thought the thing for us that was key is we got a lot of really great feedback from Whole Foods and Met Market, a lot of the key retailers here, and even Starbucks that gave us a lot of great feedback as we were developing it. And then as we've been in stores, they've just been great partners for us as we've developed this out. So our go-to-market strategy, again, tying back to those two main consumers, the foodie and the health-conscious individual, it's how do you get to them? So online and Amazon is our key for retail, for online retail. Premium grocery stores with Whole Foods, Met Markets, it'd be Boise Co-op in your backyard. And then specialty, we've done really well with wineries, cheesemongers, and charcuterie shops. And I feel like we've got a big opportunity to drive trial. We got the green light right before COVID to go into all Nordstrom, the e-cafes. So that was great. Things will settle out. And then we've had a lot of great conversations with Starbucks and Alaskan Airlines to continue to drive this. There's brokers in our industry to kind of help you with different relationships. The necessary evil of distribution with the natural specialty channel is UNFI and KeHE. And then I have a great relationship with my family business. They do charge me rent and comparable rates to what I would pay if I was to go out and take my space, but allows me to take our investment dollars and really put it into building the brand and distribution versus spending a bunch of money trying to capitalize to run a business. Validation. So in the 2 years that we've been in business, we're in 116 stores. We've done just under $200,000, and it's really diversified. I mean, Whole Foods is one of our best customers, but the one that surprises me is the Made in Washington store. There's only 5 stores. They do really well with the tourism business here. That's my number 3 customer. So we've really tried to diversify, figure out what channels are working and what the cost structure looks like to operate in each one of these channels. So the business forecast. So the first 2 are in the book. We've seeded this. We bootstrapped it on our own funds at $125,000. We're looking to raise $500,000 right now to be able to make that step outside of the Pacific Northwest to show that we're more than just a little regional brand. The key is to get into the Rocky Mountain region with Whole Foods, and then the Bay Area region with Whole Foods as well, to kind of validate and show that we're ready to take those next steps before we push into the national launch. I do have a pro forma. I'm happy to share more details behind this. This is just a very top line number, and it's all based off of those velocity and then points of distribution. So asking for $500,000, how are we going to deploy those funds and utilize them? There are a few things that we need. It's really keyed on the top 3 functions here. There's just a couple of pieces we need to be able, because my process is different from the way my family packs product. So there's a couple little small pieces of equipment that we need to upgrade or invest in to be able to drive out labor cost on our side. I'm not a QA manager. I played one for the past 2 years. I just need to be able to bring in some expertise around me to be able to jump to the next level. And then we made an investment late last year on working with an agency to drive our Amazon business. It has worked out in spades for us since COVID. Our online business has gone crazy. With COVID in place, trade shows, all of our big trade shows have been canceled, I'm sure, like every industry has. And then brand ambassadors, we're just not able to go into the stores like we were. So a lot of these dollars will be deployed up above. And so you're asking for $500,000, what are you going to deliver back? So the key to this for us is, we want to 4x our revenue. It's about increasing our store distribution, maintaining the velocity at the stores we have. We do feel that we're making a small step in our scaling, so we'll be able to drive from 53% gross margin to just under 60%, and really trying to keep the trade spend and just not spending because we've got money, but being able to really, the same way we bootstrap, be able to drive those funds efficiently. I really appreciate having the time to present today and being a consumer packaged good to present to your group. I'm more than happy to send out samples. I really believe that if you try my product, Will has had a chance to try it. But I think once you try it, and I'm more than happy to share our pro forma and more of our details behind it. Thank you again.
Great, thanks. Yeah, that's one of the disadvantages of virtual pitches is that we can't, unless we add in advance, we don't get to snack on your business. Yes, I have had Recipe 33. I don't know, maybe every flavor, and I'm a fan, man. I think they're delicious. So hopefully other folks can try them out as well. So let's go to questions. Here's a question. You said you're in a commodity market, almonds. There's some huge players in the almond business. How do you have such a high margin? How do you keep your margin at 50% driving towards 60? Because
I didn't Me Too my product. And honestly, when we did this as a business plan concept in university, it was, could we get this price point? And because I've been in this space and I specifically did it in my family business, I didn't think we could get this price point. And I had a whole 5-page pitch deck for buyers. I didn't have one buyer challenge our cost structure or our retail price. One, we're delivering the margin for the buyer. We're trading the consumer up. But I built this whole thing. What I talked about with the ice cream, I built a whole deck around this because I thought I'd get crushed by every buyer. So we're not doing, and I know that there will be other companies that come behind us. I'll probably be smaller before a Blue Diamond would come into this space. But I also think that that's part of our exit strategy is somebody like a Wonderful Pistachio that more than a third of their crop is actually almond. So I do think that we would become an acquisition target from them or an exit like Smucker's was for Sahali.
So what do you say to the people who say, like, I actually like licking my fingers when I eat my narrow barbecue?
They're not my target. And trust me, when I do my demos, I've had somebody do that, and that's cool. I can also tell if somebody's doing the Costco math in their head. If you buy your almonds at Costco, that's awesome. You're probably not our target. And that's why we've really focused on that upscale, that specialty and natural consumer. They care more about that. If you're shopping at Costco, you'll do the math really quick, price per ounce. It's probably not a fit for you. At least at this point, I do believe over the next 2 years in our cost model that we will drive our cost structure down to more of mainstream flavors and then be able to differentiate with our upscale product as well.
So even though you're you're targeting, your active market is different and your price point's different, which puts you kind of out of the general kind of commodity almond market. Your supply chain is probably similar. So how do you hedge against supply chain disruptions like COVID-19 or droughts that happen in Central California? So how do you make sure that you're still getting your almonds at a good price or still getting them so you can have an appropriate margin?
And I do leverage a lot of the relationships I had in my past. I used to do all the procurement in my family business. So I have a 10-year and my family has a 25-year relationship with a lot of these farmers. We're not buying from Blue Diamond. I mean, they control about 60%, they're a co-op, so they control about 60% of the almond crop. But we've got relationships. I've got 4 different suppliers that I work with that supply very high quality. Most of this, I source a really high, actually it's a better grade than would buy in my family business, but most of it is for export. So it's a really high quality almond that Blue Diamond isn't using that spec. So that's another piece that really differentiates our product.
Okay. You showed your traction. Looks like you're getting into some stores. So I've got 2 questions on that. How many stores are outside of Washington or like, that very close to Washington?
All of our distribution is in the Pacific Northwest. So half of it is in Seattle, or half of it is in Washington State, half of it is in Oregon.
Okay. So
I've got a couple little independent boutique things throughout the country. Honestly, I'm using Amazon to kind of measure our next markets once we go outside of the Bay Area. That's probably what's driving more of like, it'll be the East Coast. We probably skip right over the Midwest, at least initially, to focus on expanding distribution after we do the West Coast.
Great. Next question here is, what can go sideways as you deploy the $500,000 that you're looking to raise? What's the one risk to your business that keeps you up at night?
Commodity price. So almonds, at the end of the day, almond price does fluctuate. We've been very stable the past 4 years. So, and it looks like we've got great rain, great reports. The crop is coming in. So it looks like we will have another stable year. Honestly, for me, it's raising capital. That's the part that keeps me. I know how to execute. I know how to manufacture. This has been it's the part that excites me because I've not done this in a business before. It's the part that has given me some extra gray hair and keeps me up at night as well.
Great. I got, we're going to call that the last question. I do have Jolene Anderson, who's on the call, who's an investor in town, says, free suggestion. So this is worth what you're paying for it, maybe more. Washington State Ferries as a suggestion for a sales channel for you.
That's awesome.
Have you approached them at all, or any other kind of similar transportation hubs?
I honestly, I've been focused more on like a lot, just because I had a lot of, through the MBA, I had a lot of connections at Alaskan Airlines. Before COVID, we were having really good discussions. You're almost selling it slightly above cost. But for me, how many people do you touch every day with it? The ferry is a great example. So no, I really appreciate the feedback.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for your questions. Dan, thank you so much for your presentation, and best of luck on fundraising. And again, I have had them, people, they are delicious. And you don't have to lick your fingers, even if you
no
like.
cheating fingers.
So, okay, if you have more questions for Dan, please ask them directly to him via chat. So you can just click on Dan Smith in your chat box and you can keep that conversation going. For now, though, we're going to switch over to Bliss. And yep, great. Screen's already shared. So Robbie, I'm going to give the mic to you. Take it away.
All right. Hi there, my name is Robbie Anthony and I'm the CEO of Bliss. I am also the Executive Director of Solace. Today we're going to talk about Bliss, but before we get into that, I need to bring you up to speed on what Solace is. We make technology for the transgender community. We were founded out of Hackout, the world's only LGBT+ startup themed weekend in the world, after taking commanding first place in April 2019. Our first product provides our users with information. It's been featured in Autostraddle and Vice and has been called the most comprehensive guide to gender transition ever made. Our users love our product, and we're expecting to reach 2% of the entire US transgender population actively using our app by the end of the year. We were released on December 31st, 2019, after a truly audacious crowdfunding campaign that netted us about $30,000. There's one data point in particular I want to draw your attention to, and it's that first one. This community has a suicide attempt rate of 41%. And since that data has been collected, no one's been able to put a dent in it. That is until us. We polled our users with the same methodology, and we found out that our users have a 14.3% self-harm/suicide attempt rate. That's a 65% decrease, and that is just one of the things that makes Solace so magical. When we first started Solace, we asked what were the primary inhibitors for transition. One was access to reliable information and resources. Transition prior to that was a model of oral tradition. We've changed that. But let's talk about the financial burden, and that's where Bliss comes into play. Gender transition is extremely expensive. So Bliss, in the most simple terms, can be thought as acorns for gender transition, or robo-advisor. And for those unfamiliar, here are the top line features. We allow our users to link up credit and debit cards, as well as bank accounts. Every time they make a transaction, it rounds up to the next dollar and invests the difference into our mutual fund. They can also schedule regular contributions, such as $1,000 per week, or if they have windfall, they can just throw it all in there at once. We've created a rainbow index. It's mostly blue chip stocks, FANG, that kind of stuff. But they're all companies that have a high HRC corporate equality index. So our users know that while their money is being saved, it's being grown with companies that affirm them. But most importantly, it's our goals features. We have a cost database given our institutional knowledge of this community, so we can help them establish the financial costs of all the things they want to get done. They can see their progress getting there, and ultimately we can help inform them when they've reached it and made it. This is an incredibly industrious segment of savers. We're now giving them access to higher finance tools that they've been previously precluded from, and ways to see how it impacts their day-to-day existence as they go through the trials of transition. We're bringing back the same team that built Solace. So our technical partner is Crowdbotics. I am a front-end developer and the chief technologist, but I work with other people to help round out our back end and make the connections. They've built other robo-advisors, and so between the work we've done with them and the other work we've reviewed, we're exceedingly confident in their capabilities. Our legal is Wong Fleming, as they help minimize our liability and ensure we don't get sued, so we love them for that. And then our financial is a plan member. They're tentatively our partner brokerage. We're discussing the high-level technical details with their SVPs right now, but we're really thrilled to be participating with them because they get how big this market is. So there's a couple questions whenever I talk about Bliss. One, why has no one done it? And two, what protects someone else from cloning it? In terms of why no one's done it, simply put, this community gets overlooked. I can speak to that personally as a trans founder, but in general, this community is often decided not worthy to invest time into. The second is that we are the premier player in the space already, 6 months into our first app. We have over 8,000 users. We are experiencing a growth spike right now. Happy Pride Month. We've got exceptional user trust, and then we've got low startup costs. We're very, very capital efficient. So between having a captive market and the know-how on terms of how to move on it and being able to spot the opportunity, those are kind of our unfair advantages. Before we move forward and just talk about more of the raw mechanics and the business of this, I just want to bring your attention to this kind of message. We get inundated with messages like these with our work with Solace. This is why I do what I do. I want to make a massive amount of money for everyone, but it's these people that have my heart. I am the CEO, technologist, and shocking as it may be, I am transgender. I am also joined by the other co-founder of Solace, my business partner and best friend. We don't have time to get into our resumes, but hopefully that we've done this already and we're successful at it is testament that we are up for the task of doing anew. We have some great advisors. This list ebbs and flows. We add in more people on a pretty regular basis. We know we don't have all the answers, but we're very good at finding the people that do. So I mentioned the transition's very expensive. $150,000 is the average. You can think of simple things like clothing, updating one's wardrobe. That can be $2.5K right there. A new driver's license, attorney's fee, surgery, so gender confirmation surgery, colloquially known as bottom surgery, facial feminization, and it goes on and on and on. This is an average. As a reference point, Caitlyn Jenner's transition was estimated to cost $4.1 billion. So when we look into the amount that people are investing into this and the market size, some have it at 1.4 million for a number of reasons. We're just using 1 million for simplicity. You look at their contribution and the amount of time that people spend in transition, and then when you just look at the gains on those assets under management, we're talking a multi-billion-dollar market. But let's be a bit more reasonable. Let's bring it down and account for the higher than usual unemployment rate, because discrimination is still live and active. Even then, we're still talking a multiple billion-dollar market. But let's be pragmatic. Let's take it down to that 1%, 8,400 users. And in a few hours, based on my analysis and my ticker, Solis will have that many users. And they're investing the 150K altogether. It's still a multi-million-dollar market. But I am a pragmatist and I'm very cautious at my heart, especially as a financier. So let's just look at 4,200 users. So about half that, let's assume that they're trans women looking for breast augmentation, $3,800. That's an extremely cheap breast augmentation, but just for the sake of the example. And the average amount of funds kept in the account is 2 years. And so it doesn't seem like a ton of big numbers, but 4,200 by 3,800 is 16 million in assets under management, and that's our year one goal. The amount per user is going to vary from user to user, and the average length and size of the account is going to differ. We expect 25% of the funds to be kept in short-term savings, things for like small expenses, dresses, shoes, the first kind of purchases, and then 75% to be in a more aggressive savings vehicle, specifically the medical items. We're seeking an investment of 200 grand. And we're going to structure ourselves as a B Corp. Solis is a nonprofit, and we almost took that route with Bliss, but after talking with our advisors and tax professionals, a for-profit structure is the way to do it. Our investment vehicle of choice would be a SAFE, but it's negotiable. I honestly don't want to be fundraising. I want to go back to making life-saving technology. So it's investor's choice. We're happy to go with any deal or the preferred vehicle. Our budget is pretty simple. We have 2 FTEs, co-working space as our physical infrastructure, and upfront technology costs, the financial integration with our brokerage. My business professors always told me to add an unforeseen cost to my budget, so here I am. And then our marketing is next to nothing, because the most effective marketing tool for the entire transgender population within the US is Solis, and we own it. That is my name, that is my number, those are my pronouns, that is my email. I'm really excited to talk with y'all about Bliss. There is so much to cover. We've got a very, very dense business plan for anyone interested. Feel free to download Solis if you want to get a taste of our UI, and as an ally, just to understand what this community goes through. It's incredibly fascinating, and I'm looking forward to taking your questions and hopefully chatting in the future. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Robbie. So first question is, can you just go through your business model again? How do you make money on your users, and how much money that you said, assets under management? What is your revenue on that?
Yeah, so the way we're doing it is like the other robo-advisors. So users place their funds in our mutual fund. It's structured like an affinity group. And so we take a percentage or a management fee off the gains of that. Once I acquire my series, I think it's 65 or 67. Previously held my 7, but I need to get that one. Or a partner brokerage is happy to pay us a marketing stipend. So we're not taking the funds from the users itself. We're taking the interest collected on top of it.
Got it. So somebody puts money as a savings account in your app, and that all of the savings accounts are pooled and held in some place that provides interest. You take a percentage of you split the interest with somebody, and you get part of it. Is that right?
Correct. So users still get part of the gains, but then we get a percentage as well.
So the more assets under management, more revenue. It doesn't matter how they're spending it or what they're doing with it. It's just if you're holding it for them, you get a percentage of that money. Gains.
Correct.
Got it. Great. Thank you. So then you mentioned your series this and series that. Could you talk about the financial regulations that you're beholden to, and how you're allowed to essentially be a money manager for these folks?
Yeah. So it's actually surprisingly simple, which is exciting. All we need is an individual that can be the managing brokerage, which would be the plan member at the moment. So in a lot of ways, it works like an affinity group. So we're treated as one giant corporate entity, and all the users are treated as almost employees kind of structurally as they've done before. So if you look at different companies where they have these different niche interest groups and they're able to pool the resources, we're using the same trick in a decentralized way. And we have gotten regulatory approval from the powers that be that that is all permissible.
Great. What kind of IP do you have, and what kind of IP protection is in place with that?
Yeah, so we don't have any hard IP right now. Obviously, we've got our brand and our trademark, and the USPTO just opened up a lot of LGBT specific claims. So we're really excited about that. That's what allows us to grab things like Solace and Bliss just in and of themselves. In terms of the hard tech, there's not a lot to be able to score IP. So our best defense is going to be going with the captive audience strategy and boxing out our competitors, because our users love us that much more. So there's a little bit more risk there, all in all, but no one's going to be able to make a claim to the IP that we'd be using, or at least no one has yet that we've seen.
So you're mentioning that like one of your competitive advantages is that you're of this community, building it for this community, and there's this network effect that happens inside of this community. So when you're thinking about providing a return to investors and having an exit event, would an exit event to Robinhood or some other financial app destroy the trust between you and the users?
I don't think so, but that would certainly be the question to answer when that point arrived. Those are the kind of people we're looking for in terms of an exit. We think we've done a very, very good job of cultivating the voice of these different products. It's not just myself. So even if it's handed off to different leadership and still maintained authentically, the trust should still be there. So the users don't trust my voice, they trust the voice of Solace, and they'll do the same with Bliss.
Great. And then, so you said you've got 8,000 users now and you're seeing good growth. Can you walk us through now? So you mentioned in your market size, you like whittled it down to 8,400 users that had on average lifetime value of $150,000 in terms of asset under management. And you broke that down into, what you would be making on that. So you're really close to that right now. So can you walk us through what your current revenues are?
Yeah, so for Bliss, we are in pre-development, so we're still finishing the app. With Solace as a nonprofit, we are pretty heavily reliant on grants. So we'll gross probably north of 100,000 in our first year. Obviously, that's not the long-term sustainability. It's extremely hard to get money for trans-specific products, which is also just very contrary to our understanding of this community, because they'll invest more in the house that is their home than their literal mortgage. So we're young, but we're definitely revenue positive, at least on Solace's side.
Great. Here's another question. Is there a licensing model at all related to your app, or are you thinking of licensing this platform at all, or is it all going to be kind of in-house?
Yeah, we see other niche communities that could really benefit from this, especially on the financial side. The undocumented community is one that we are eyeballing in terms of that could really value from accessing high finance through high tech in a decentralized model. So the trans community is where my heart is and the proving ground, but we're very aware that these solutions will have a broader appeal beyond just this community.
Great. And my last question, which I should have been my first question, is you look really familiar, Robbie, like you've been here before. And so I wanted to just ask you about an update on what happened with the last time we saw you pitch. You were working on a project that was in the same space, but very different. Could you just give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, so last time I pitched, it was Gravity. Gravity was kind of at its ramp up stage at that point, kind of going to that full first major seed round. Then just on a whim, I went down to that LGBT startup weekend and created Solace. And I fell in love with the product. So I left Gravity to do this full time. So it's no longer in my control because I found what I love to do.
Is Gravity, does it still exist?
To my understanding, no. Dating apps are just very, very difficult to get off the ground. No, I don't think it's running anymore.
Okay, well, then you have a startup's worth of education to apply to, at least one startup's worth of education to apply to this project. So great, thanks for that update. I just wanted to ask because there might be other people that are wondering the same thing. So thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Amy, for your great pitches. It is so cool to get some insight on what you're working on, and you each have very, very different but innovative and creative projects, and you're trailblazing in different industries. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks to all of you who have tuned in and listened and asked questions. My hope is that these conversations continue. So I would mistakenly said, hey, direct chat folks, but this version of Zoom doesn't allow you to direct chat the presenters. So email addresses will be provided. This recording will be sent out afterwards. And so we really hope that there's some interest from all of you watching to continue the conversations that we started here today. So I'm just gonna end it here. Thanks everybody for the first ever virtual Boise Pitch Night. Thanks to our startups again. And hopefully we will see you back here either in person or virtual for the next one.
Good. Thanks everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.